Man, that sunset is gorgeous.
Grill, patio, sunset. Hard to get better than that. Unless you're browsing Carvana's inventory while you soak it all in.
Oh, burger time.
So sit back, get comfortable. Carvana's got thousands of cars under $20,000 just waiting for you.
I could stay here forever.
Carvana, where car buying meets comfort meets convenience. Download the app or visit Carvana.com today. The comfort of your favorite seat is now your comfy car selling command center, thanks to Carvana.
It doesn't get any better than this.
Your favorite seat's the best spot in the house. Make it even better by entering your license plate or VIN and getting a real offer in minutes.
There really is no place like home.
And speaking of home, Carvana will pick up your car from yours after you finalize your offer. Visit Carvana.com or download the app and sell your car from your comfy place.
Between 1972 and 1973 in modern-day Syria, archaeologists began an excavation of what they originally thought was an ancient farming village located in the Euphrates Valley in an area known as Tell Abu Hureyra. The scientists were surprised to discover that there was another settlement from the Paleolithic area buried underneath the remains of the later settlement. Archaeologists were able to determine that the earlier village had been a society of hunter-gatherers who had perhaps settled in the valley more than 12,000 years ago. Around that same time period is when scientists have studied and determined that there had been a dramatic climate shift that actually seemed to halt the Earth's exit from its last ice age. Even more fascinating is that after a new study of the soil and artifacts found at Abu Hureyra revealed the settlement had been obliterated by a fragment of a comet. This finding seems to support the relatively new theory that this unusual climatic event may have been the result of a single or even multiple extraterrestrial impacts. Impacts that may have resulted in, as some academics believe, the destruction of a highly advanced human culture that existed prior to the event. This case file joined the theorists as they trade in their older two-door Dryas to get their hands on the newer, sleeker, and more spacious model of the Younger Dryas.
Welcome to Alien Theorists Theorizing, Case File 172, The Younger Dryas. I'm Braden.
I'm Zell.
I'm Dan.
And I'm Andrew.
Back at it. It's going to be a fun one for more loose conversation about theories on the Younger Dryas period.
This is going to be the layman's version of what happened at the Younger Dryas boundary.
As if we got fucking Zell, aka fucking Hancock over here. Guy's been waiting for this. Crazy.
He's had a hand in his cock, all right, or cock in his hand, all right.
Fully torqued, ready to talk about fucking
Swing and a miss. No, I'm not expert. I always liked this theory ever since the first time I read the first Hancock book.
It's been 15,000 years. You can't expect him to remember everything that happened back then. I mean, he was alive,
I was just a young
Did
gaffer.
you come on that? Did you come on a fucking asteroid from the vampire planet? Are you like a vampire? Are you a vampire like Kal-El?
People always ask how I got here.
To Earth
oh no, he's one of those
you?
life force.
Is that what it is, though? Is there a vampire planet?
Maybe.
There is a movie called Planet of the Vampires. Is that a documentary?
Arrived here on just a comet about 12,800 or 13,500 years ago, depending, give or take a few.
You were here for the Younger Dryas, but not the oldest and older Dryas.
No, actually, I arrived at the oldest Dryas. Went through all the Dryastes, and now we're here doing ATT.
Put up with the angsty teenage Dryas years.
That was a rough time back then.
I also heard that you built Göbekli Tepe. Is that true?
Possible. Cannot confirm nor deny any of these accusations.
All right. That's fair.
It looks like his craftsmanship.
That theory is about as sound as some other theories we may or may not discuss tonight. But still fun. Either way.
Sounds like par for the course for us. Yeah, that's good.
All right. Let's start off. Younger Dryas.
So if you don't know about the Younger Dryas, a quick little FYI would be that it is a strange or relatively strange and sudden plunge of temperature about 14,000. No, that's the older Dryas. Sorry. Younger Dryas happened about like close to 13,000 years ago or somewhere between
12,800, I think.
Right. 12,900, 800, 11,600. Paleoclimatology is not a hugely exact science. So
give it plus or minus a couple hundred years, let's say.
Yeah.
No,
They don't know it to the day? Are you kidding me?
not to the minute. What the fuck's going on here?
Jesus.
I thought these were scientists.
Yeah, I thought this was about precision.
You call this science? Bah. During this period, what you see, a lot of scientists, you see this sudden period of change in the northern hemisphere that caused the climate to become colder and drier
Quickly.
relatively quickly.
Geologically quick.
Yeah, you would notice probably if you were living in Europe at the time, there's probably an average drop of temperature from 2 to 6 degrees Celsius, depending on how far north you went. And you'd see things like we have records or there's evidence of things like rising sea levels. There were changes in vegetation. A lot of the plants went through a kind of transition where you had a lot of the forests that were up in the northern parts of the northern hemisphere. You saw it turning from forests to grasslands,
Like tundra kind of style, plateau, like tundra like that.
Mhm.
Frozen.
And so you had also during this period, you saw a extinction or you saw severe population declines of a lot of the megafauna that existed prior to that
We're
period
talking
of time.
tens of millions of fucking animals being extinct. Like fucking astronomical amounts.
Big populations of mammoths, saber-toothed tigers, short-nosed bears, the giant sloth. Pretty much megafauna refers to
fake.
All the cool animals that used to live in North America, like we used to have horses in North America. If you didn't know, horses are not native to the Americas.
Started here
over by European settlers. But we did have them here at one point, but they went extinct sometime around the past. And then you had things like the
I mean, if you believe in round Earth, yeah,
that's ground sloths, things like that. All really cool animals that you wish you could see now.
Most of the animals over like 100 pounds went extinct.
You definitely wish you could see them, but not while you're out and about going for a nice little fucking
Dude, there's
hike.
some crazy looking like proto-elephant that used to live around North America. Fucking nuts. Like, ugh.
Dude,
I don't know if I want that
I'm
wandering
pretty
around.
stoked I don't have to run into fucking saber-toothed tigers when I go to grab my mail.
Yeah,
but
saber-toothed tigers or the short-nosed bears, like a 2,500 pound giant bear. It would fuck up a grizzly bear with one swat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Normal
You
grizzlies
wouldn't
are
want
scary
that going
enough.
through your trash. And
You can have it.
I couldn't even imagine because my fear of like if I were to the fear of my own house cat, like
Dude.
a cat 800 times the size of that.
Well,
just
think about
on
the damage
prowl.
your house cat could do.
Yeah, 10-pound cat shreds you.
We'll fuck you up. Oh, dude, a
Yeah.
10-pound cat's a big
Dude,
cat.
a cougar, like think about a tiger. A tiger would destroy you right now.
Oh.
Yeah,
Easy
done.
work.
Easy.
Easy work, dude.
Hey, so hold on, quick hypothetical. Think we could tame a saber tooth like humans if we got one from a baby and do circus tricks with it? Wouldn't that be the ultimate fuck you to the past?
Buddy, you saw what happened to fucking Hans and Franz. Didn't go well. Those guys had a bunch of white tigers and
But
guy
hey,
ended up getting
listen,
fucking mauled.
it didn't go well once, but for
What?
the most part, well, a couple times.
It
but
never
let's say
goes
the
well.
odds.
All these fucking guys who have like pet bears and stuff like that all get eaten. All of them.
I'm saying the number of times that yes, that's a true fact, but the number of times that we are fucking with these animals and just making them do tricks like they're our bitch is more often than not in those scenarios than like they're biting them.
It only
Yeah,
takes
but
one
every-
time.
Dude,
Yeah,
and
no, then you're done.
Then you're
they
done.
play for keeps, man.
Yeah.
There's no fucking. No coming back from that unless without an appendage. Or
Like, do you
something,
think somewhere like if saber-tooth like tigers were real, there's in northern Thailand, you could go and pet a bunch of sedated ones?
100%. You would have Joe Exotic would have a fucking pen full of saber tooths, buddy. Anyways,
Fucking Walmart fed.
I'm sure they'd be getting hunt to extinction for their fucking teeth or something like that, though.
Yeah, probably.
Because we're pieces of shit. But
okay, Younger Dryas, extinction of megafauna. What else happened at this time?
Well, what's so unusual and what's so kind of amazing or fascinating about the Younger Dryas is that at this point, there's kind of a debate going on about, well, there is a debate, a scientific debate about what was the direct cause or what were the leading causes of this sudden climate change. You have the number one, we'll talk about the main leading theory, which is that there is a lot of evidence to support, and this was the main accepted theory until about 2007, like early 2000s or so, that there was a sudden influx of fresh water from what was previously Lake Agassiz and the deglaciation of North America. So prior to the Younger Dryas, you had what is known as the Bowling-Allerod warming period. Is that correct? You gotta check me.
Hey, it sounds good.
This whole time is significant because we had the end of the last ice age was about 20,000 years ago. So glacier maximum, all of Canada and parts of northern United States, most of Europe, like northern Europe, covered in 2, 3, or 4 kilometer thick ice sheets. And then for thousands of years, it's warming up, more or less steady. And then a sudden cooling event called the Oldest Dryas first. And then that was preceded by the Boolean oscillation, so like a quick warming. And then we had an Older Dryas, that preceded by the Allerod oscillation. And then we get to the Younger Dryas, which is an even sharper decrease in temperature. So like you have this like steady line of warming and then like 3 events, boom, 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 within a relative short amount of geological time.
some fucking riveting shit we're talking about here. Like,
dude. It's crazy. This is our history in the making. And then the Younger Dryas is such a sharp decrease back to like almost peak glacial temperatures, and the glaciers start increasing again, and that is the mystery. And that's what,
yeah. So in geological terms, it's wild times.
Like this was the shortest amount of time that this took, like it took to fucking cool, right?
it was just a rapid cooling within like a couple hundred years. It went just like back to glacial. Boom, just and that's
and if you're wondering
fast.
how scientists know all this or how they get their evidence to support their theories on these things, we have things like ice core samples. You dig it out of glaciers or some of the permafrost out in the up in the Arctic and stuff like that. It shows us you can gather evidence and showing the temperature, the average like ice melt, what the temperature was like, what the climate was like. You also get like pollen samples in there, so you have like frozen pollen samples. You can see what kind of vegetation was kind of in the area, what was going on. You have lake sediments, ocean sediments, all these kind of sediment stuff that settles to the bottom of the ocean and lakes and stays there for a long time. Scientists are able to pick this stuff up, and from that they can pick apart, there are experts that are good at this and can kind of tell you what's going on.
Most importantly of all, and lucky for everybody here, we have eyewitness. We got
I'll tell you firsthand what happened. You don't have this is going to be put to rest tonight. I'll tell you.
Watched it.
We'll get to it.
What happened. He had dash cam footage of this happen.
But yeah, like
riding in his asteroid.
But yeah, specifically like the Greenland ice core project, they drill in, they could check like the oxygen isotopes at the time, and they found dust and pollen, and they can pretty much deduce that at this time with a rapid decrease in temperature, and it's always been a mystery of exactly how. So let's start with theory one. So Dan mentioned Lake Agassiz, which was a lake pretty much covering the Great Lakes, but also like 1/3 of Canada. It was this giant freshwater melt lake formed by the slow warming of the earth, and the glaciers are melting. It forms this giant lake. And so the main theory pretty much is eventually either the ice wall, similar to Game of Thrones, but probably way bigger and way thicker, either gives way or the water raises it up and it rushes out the bottom, causing massive floods into the Atlantic Ocean. And pretty much, what do they call that? It's pretty much the Atlantic conveyor belt. It's like a giant...
The Gulf Stream?
It's like the Gulf Stream of the ocean.
What are you talking
Right.
about?
It's like the Atlantic conveyor. It's like the simple term, but it has like more technical term. But
Right. So it's like a current of like warm water and stuff that moves around the northern Atlantic.
yeah, it comes up from the tropics up by like Europe and stuff, and then circles back, desalinates, sinks to the bottom, and that continues. And that's like why Europe, even at the same latitude as Canada, like London, England is at the same latitude we're at, except they never really experience winter. Like it might snow randomly, but it doesn't. And that's because of this conveyor. So the leading theory is probably through a series of floods from this Lake Agassiz, it pretty much stopped this conveyor, like pretty much instantly cooling the earth, either through multiple floods, there's how many. And you can see the evidence for giant floods. You can see it in like Pacific Northwest. It's called like the scab lands of Washington. You can see like, if you're at the beach and the waves come in, they leave like those little ripples in the sand.
Yeah.
They're tiny. But in the scab lands, if you get a vantage point, you can see across this whole valley, giant like 50-foot ripples in the earth, and they have like huge. It looks like if you were to pour a bucket on like a giant bucket of water in the sand, it would like make those big like sharp canyons. That's all over the scab lands and these ripples. So they pretty much know that there's some giant floods, and the same type of stuff is located in like the northern northwest territories of Canada, like Lake Mackenzie River Basin. So they pretty much deduced the leading theory at the time that this baby ruptured and flooded the oceans, instantly cooling the planet.
This would rise, like also like the shoreline would go up, right? Like how much was it rising? Do we have any idea?
Well, actually, prior to the Younger Dryas, like because the glaciers were melting, there was like leading up to the Younger Dryas during the Bowling Allarod period. You probably would have saw sea levels rise to rise approximately like 20 meters over 500 years or something. I think prior to that.
Yeah, like before the Younger Dryas, there was two, they call them meltwater pulses. It's like 1A0 and 1A. And the one that proceeded immediately before the Younger Dryas was meltwater pulse 1A, and it rose sea levels about 52 feet relatively quickly. During the Younger Dryas, you don't really see, they don't see the sea level rise. So something else kind of happens. And that's why the theories kind of start running rampant. And we'll talk about, there's more another meltwater pulse after the Younger Dryas, but we're going to get there. So that's pretty much the main theory, is this Lake Agassiz, or there's also a Lake Missoula, which it wasn't actually Lake Agassiz that caused the Scablands fronts. It's actually Lake Missoula, which is, I think, Montana.
Yep.
Missoula, Montana.
And there's even still debate about where the water actually was deposited after the lake, because they're still trying to figure out if it went through the Lawrence River, north or south?
Well, they thought Lake Mackenzie or Lake Agassiz flowed out the St. Lawrence, and then they thought maybe out the Mississippi, like way down, and then they thought now out Lake Mackenzie. But Lake Missoula, they think, flowed out through like Pacific Northwest, like through Washington. But they're not.
Right.
It's hard. I mean, it's fucking any type of evidence that was there before the flood is gone. So like it's hard to really find out exactly. But you can see in Missoula in Montana, you can see where the lake level was on the hills around it. You can like see all the levels where the lake was. They're like, it had like a 900-foot deep lake that just emptied.
So using things like simulations inside like computers, computer modeling and things like that, when they simulate the currents, they've said that scientists kind of seem to agree that if it had deposited that water through into like the Arctic, like up into the Arctic, like into the northern part of the Atlantic, is probably the more disruptive part, which probably would have affected like the Atlantic conveyor, probably would have affected it or slowed it down like 30%. Whereas if it would have deposited in the southern, like out the Mississippi, like through the Caribbean, probably only would have been about 15% is what they're saying. So they're thinking that the north wind has a little bit more meat to it.
Well, yeah,
But
definitely.
It's still kind of there's a debate within the debate. So it's kind of neat.
Yeah, but you in the like Mackenzie River Basin, you can see evidence of huge floods. So that they know it went out there. They just think the debate is like, did it go just there or did it go multiple places? But yes, it seems like out through the north into like the Arctic Sea, into the Atlantic is the leading theory of that we've had for a while. I mean, this is still relatively new science. This stuff's only 100 years old.
So that's the prevailing theory, or it had been until 2007. So once you get to like about 2007, another theory comes along, and you had what's his first name? Firestone.
Look at his first name. Yeah, it's Firestone. Richard B. Firestone.
So Richard B. Firestone comes along, and he adds on to some more.
God damn, that's his name. Holy. Dick Firestone?
Yes.
Dick Firestone.
Wow. I hope he went by Dick. What a name.
He comes along and he starts putting together a theory for an impact hypothesis, that he puts forth the idea that it was perhaps some sort of extraterrestrial, not alien, but, from outer space, impact that was either a trigger or was a direct cause for all of the things all of the crazy stuff that you saw during the Younger Dryas, the mass die-offs, the rising sea levels, the climate change. And so this is where the impact hypothesis comes in. And so this is like what you'll see in a lot of books and a lot of things. This is now the big debate between the two.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you would have asked in 2007, a lot of scientists came out and said,
suck it.
Fuck this theory. There's no way. There was
garbage.
A bunch of papers written against, like, contesting the evidence that they picked. Some of the evidence that they gathered, they said there was definitely discrepancies, or they said there were sampling errors, or perhaps people tried to replicate it, didn't. But the thing is, like, people kept trying. So a lot of scientists kind of, looked at it a little bit more critically, and they started looking for different pieces. And now you see the theories actually gaining a little bit more ground about perhaps there was some sort of impact event.
I mean, the same thing happened 66 million years ago with an asteroid or comet hitting Mexico, right? Like, I don't understand why it was so hard to fathom that.
Well, that one took a while too. Same type of thing. Like, they proposed it, they couldn't find it, and it wasn't until they actually found evidence of the crater that they started measuring out from there. Like, oh yes, this was a massive, like, ET impact. And then,
but when was that?
65 million years ago. What do they call it? The KT boundary?
66. Well, I know that the impact was 66 million years ago, but when did they start thinking that was a viable theory? It was way before fucking 2006 or 2007.
Yeah, we're only a couple.
You're talking about
we're a couple generations from that being accepted.
I get what you're saying, Andrew. It's weird that they opposed. Like, why would they oppose Comet? Like, I think it's just maybe like they didn't have the evidence at the time, and so then it's almost like going to work and you work with a guy who's like 25 years in, and you're like, hey man, we could do it this way. He's like, that's not how we do it, because we always did it this way, and that's how it's always been done.
The hard way.
And you're like, oh, okay, and like maybe I kind of thought of that. Like, maybe that's a little of this where it's like they thought this planned it, the lake stuff, like, it works. There's a lot of evidence to support it, but they hear something else. They're just like, no, absolutely not. We're already. My heart's into the lake, just like it's like the flat Earth back in the day, but with science.
Crazy. You've got the mass extinctions of the dinosaurs. You have the radical fucking cooling. You know what I mean? Like, it's pretty much.
I have the thought that perhaps a lot of people were against his Firestone's theory because when he kind of writes about it, he uses what they usually call like an umbrella theory.
Right.
And that he kind of is like, this is the reason, this impact event is what caused all of the things, all of the kind of strange stuff, the extinctions, the migration, cultural shifts in human populations that we see around that time. All of that was caused because of this, which is like part of your thing, the impact hypothesis. Yes, that could possibly happen. But this is an extremely complicated event. Geological things are not just like something that perhaps you could maybe call cataclysmic or something like that. It's difficult for scientists to be like, just one event caused all of that. like we need to look at this a little bit closer.
Yeah.
Like it's not just this one thing. Perhaps there was a whole bunch of other things that were happening at the time. So I think that's why a lot of scientists weren't eager to kind of come and support it. They're like, I think there's probably a lot more that was happening at that time.
Well, originally sorry, go ahead, Andrew.
Well, I was just going to say, like, wasn't like cataclysms were kind of like faux pas too, right? To the scientific community, because I guess when you buy into that, like scientists have kind of a vested interest in kind of moving away from that shit, right? Because when you buy into these cataclysms and these floods and shit like that, it starts leaning towards
it's biblical
religion. You know what I mean? And that, like, you know what I mean? You got to think that they've got a vested interest in staying away from superstitious shit, religion, and all that kind of stuff, right? And that kind of adds some validity to it.
Yeah, and they also want to you're trying to take smaller steps when you're doing the science. So you don't want to be like, all of a sudden, like, yeah, this impact is responsible for everything that happened. And that's why there's so much pushback. But the reason he came up with this theory in the end, because the KT boundary, the one that killed the dinosaurs, where they dig it up pretty much all over this, wherever you can dig to find this, they find it everywhere. And it's full of shocked quartz and like biomass burning and soot and like all this stuff. And they're like, oh yeah, all these are markers of cosmic impacts. But it wasn't until they found the crater, they're like, yes, this all makes sense now. And finally, all the scientists got on board and they're like, yes, there was an impact. And the impact, the dinosaurs definitely didn't die right away. It would have been like, it probably caused massive climate change and like, loss of habitat, and they slowly died off over, how long. I'm not sure how long, but there's no ice samples to really, they can't date ice that far back. So you can't really tell.
So though? Like it's always been weird to me. And obviously I'm extremely uneducated in this and many other fucking
we all are
subjects. But like, that's what I don't understand. Like for how long did the dinosaurs walk the earth?
Hundreds of millions of years.
So how many different vast fucking climate changes did they have to deal with?
Nothing as fast changing as the impact.
But still, like they've dealt with they've been shit kicked with climate change. I don't know how many different times. You're telling me that this climate change was enough to fucking wipe them all out? To me, even just as a kid learning, I always lean more towards the impact wiping them out than a fucking climate change.
Well, the impact caused probably a huge global climate change and all the big, like, they probably didn't die off right away. A lot of them, they say it maybe evolved or devolved, you could say, to fucking birds or whatever. Like,
chickens.
Yeah.
But anyways,
maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know, because like they've had to have dealt with climate change in the past.
Oh, for sure. If you're there for hundreds of millions, there would have been super volcanoes and earthquakes and giant. There's probably multiple impacts that maybe not as big, but anyways. So yeah, you have that boundary with the shock quartz and the nano diamonds and like, like the molten glass, like fused glass, like that. And so it was proposed when they found there's this layer, like the black mat, they call it, that exists a lot of places in the Northern Hemisphere and Europe and stuff. And the claim was made that like these same cosmic impact markers are found in the black mat, like the magnetic microspherules that only form during like high heat events, the nano diamonds, the like shocked quartz, and like, so that's how it started. Like, well, that happened then as an impact. Here's another impact proxy at this time, at this mat. Here's the soot. Here's the black mat. It matches precisely with the Younger Dryas time frame. And so that's how the theory started. Like, okay, there was an impact, and an impact, they say, on the ice cap, either through a comet, like a airburst comet, or maybe something that actually hit the ice cap, but enough to like melt a substantial amount of water, either into vapor, into rain, or straight, just like it just flash flooded out of the glacier into the ocean. And so that's how that theory started. And then it's been a debate now 13 years in the making, and the impact hypothesis keeps gaining a little bit of steam. And that's kind of where we're at now. So, okay, so that's it. That's number 2. What else can we say about the impact?
What else can we say about the impact?
Yeah, like
what can we say about the other theories?
Well, let's keep going with the impact. What other? Is there anything else?
So there's still debate as to whether, like Zell said, it's either they're thinking whether it's an airburst or it could have been an asteroid that actually struck, like physically struck. There's still kind of a mulling about of like what actually could have possibly happened, because you need an impact leaves evidence, so, and that would also cause like a whole bunch of other problems, because it's like, okay, if it was an airburst, it's this, or is it this? Because there's still not a consensus about what exactly the impact event was. Pretty sure it's like what you're still left with the mystery of like, did it actually impact? Was it a bunch of little impacts? Did it, was it do we pass through some sort of, meteor shower or something like that? Some kind of multiple extraterrestrial objects just like a bombarded Earth. So there's still we're still trying to figure that out, or they're still trying to put that stuff together.
The shotgun effect is the one that kind of made the most sense to me when we're talking about all the evidence left with like fragment. All the magnetic iron-rich spherules and glassy silica-rich spherules with a multitude of fucking different sites.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, like they investigated many sites over North America. I mean, the results have obviously been challenged, but
from California to the Middle East, they say.
Yeah, as far as Syria. Yep.
Yeah, right. Like that's pretty wild. And then when we talk again about the impact theory, is like you listen to the fucking the injuries to the animals and stuff like that. So we already talked a little bit about the floods and stuff like that. So we have the pooling of these mass mortality sites with these, you know what I mean, the mammoth bones, but these bones are fucking pulverized. And like at this time, humans did not have the ability to cause injuries to fucking mammoths like that.
Well, if
not a fucking chance.
No, but say you have huge herds of mammoths, a flood from either whatever the melting lake or the impact sets off the huge floods. The mammoths get, turned around in the washing machine of this giant flood, or whatever the deposited, they'd be pulverized just from the force of the flood.
I don't know.
Well,
maybe,
dude, have you the same thing? Like, so if you ever heard like Randall Carlson, who did all the research for Graham Hancock for his new book, he's like,
not as pretty and doesn't sound as fucking eloquent, so he kind of fades a little bit.
Yeah, but he's a geologist. He's actually like a professor of geology, and he's spent a lot of time in the scablands and like researching the deposits of these like 20,000 pound boulders, like huge fucking boulders way up on the hills and stuff. So whatever amount of water moved, those boulders could crush and destroy anything, pretty much.
That's fair.
But yeah, a fragmented comet, it could have been multiple airbursts. It could have been a couple impacts and airbursts. They don't really know, because at the time there was no crater that was feasible to match until we actually talked about on the podcast a couple of years ago. They found a crater. It's 100% an impact crater called the Hiawatha crater in Greenland. They don't know exactly how old, but they're saying like between like either 100,000 and 10,000 years old. So it puts it right on the boundary of the Younger Dryas possible. So that's the first time they found a crater that they're like, maybe this was one, but they don't really know yet. They need obviously more testing and stuff, but.
And that one was like buried. It was like buried under the ice. Like that's why we didn't know about it till now.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's in a fairly remote area that not a lot of people travel to, and you probably would have never found it unless without, geospatial technology and mapping technology and things like that. And they found it, and they're like, this might be a crater that had a hand or was either a contributing factor or perhaps a cause of what we saw during the Younger Dryas.
Yeah, because the ice started to melt a little bit, so they kind of seen something that looked weird. So they did like ice penetrating radar, and sure enough, it's a definite crater. They can tell by like the rebounding in the center, like a drop into water when you that it pools and then the middle bounces up. That's like a common thing for impact craters on Earth. So they know it's a crater, an impact crater. They just don't know the exact date, but that so far is the best evidence. And then right around that time, so we talked about Dick Firestone. He has now convinced enough of his colleagues. They wrote a huge study, a 2-part study called The Extraordinary Biomass Burning.
Dick Firestone and the boys.
Dick Firestone and the boys wrote an extraordinary biomass burning episode in impact winter triggered by the Younger Dryas cosmic impact 12,800 years ago. 2-parter. 1, ice cores and glaciers. 1, lake, marine, and terrestrial sediment. And this thing is deep. It's in, like, on the show, a lot of times we don't talk about peer-reviewed stuff because a lot of stuff we talk about can't be peer-reviewed. But this baby It's in the Journal of Geology. And it is, right now, this is the Bible of the impact hypothesis. And they have a lot of people on it. I'm obviously, as far as this type of science goes, is going back and forth. But this, if you go through it, they go through all the samples of, they found increased platinum across North America, all the way to Syria, in Greenland ice cores. They've all these other impact proxies that are like, yeah, these coincide with other impact proxies around the world from different craters. So it's convincing, obviously, or they wouldn't have wrote this much into it. So that is now a challenging theory for the original of just a slow progression of melting floods causing the Atlantic conveyor belt to slow down. So that's where we're at on those two main theories. And it's cool. It's really cool.
Smack dab in the middle of a theory battle.
Theory battle between the mainstream.
Who will reign supreme?
Between the mainstream boys and the.
We're taking your bets here. Who's the underdog?
What are the odds on the impact hypothesis?
Oh shit! It's Dick Firestone with a steel chair coming
out from behind.
Yeah, so I know he's
reaching under the ring. What's he pulling out? Oh my god, it's a bat with barbed wire. Oh my god.
One theory's life is on the line.
Oh my god, Lake Agassiz theory has a family. Oh my god.
It's a really interesting theory. I definitely I instantly lean towards the meteor. That makes more sense to me. It lines up nicely with all of that period, really nicely. And I get it. It's like the one thing triggers, like you're like, boom, easy answer. But I like that theory. I don't see anything wrong with that at all. Now,
yeah. Well, I mean, some people tell you different, but we don't.
Yeah, there are challenges to the theory. There are scientists that do put forth that the black mat, a lot of the black mats that you'll see, or that they say are linked to the impact hypothesis, are products of perhaps you see the general shift during the Younger Dryas, or leading up to the Younger Dryas. You had the wetlands that had been there have been prominent and huge wetlands, and then you saw a retreat of the water from those wetlands. So you see all of this black mat is where the wetlands used to be, and then they dry out, and then you just have this layer of what used to be these wetlands. So that's one explanation that some scientists put forth to challenge that theory is one thing. Then another part is that perhaps that some of these, the increased platinum, the microspherules, these impacts, perhaps they are from a series of impacts that not necessarily had the overall huge cataclysmic repercussions that a singular impact event would have. Perhaps there were a bunch of tiny little ones, not tiny, but relatively
smaller.
They were still we get airburst, like the airburst one that happened over, what was it, the one that we had recently over Russia?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So things like that.
The one with the dash cam footage of it.
Yeah.
We're fucking crazy.
Earth is no stranger to these things. Like, these things have happened in the past, and having these scary fucking meteor strikes happens. Geologically, it happens probably more often than you would really want it to happen.
Well, we talked about Tunguska and Confidential. It's like terrifying. It fucking just obliterated a forest. Like in Russia, like just left matchsticks, like destroyed the place.
How many people died?
Not many, because it wasn't very populated.
Just got lucky.
Yeah,
it was like 6 people died from heart attack or something.
Yeah, it would if that was in a populated city, it would have leveled like New York City. It would have been gone.
Yeah, like St. Petersburg or something would have just been
and that's
gone.
that's like 120 years ago. It's not that long ago.
So you have these things, and then one other thing that I saw is that I know Dick Firestone and the boys like to try to lump in the megafauna extinctions with the impact event, saying that this was a cause for it. But there's also a lot of scientists who paleontologists and things like that who study the megafauna. Those archaeologists will tell you that the megafauna die-offs,
it's overkill.
They coincide a lot. Number one, they started way before then. A lot of the die-offs started way before then. You saw these population declines, but also a lot of the die-offs coincide with the movement of humans outside of Africa. They moved. They line up almost perfectly.
Yeah, they do.
Dude, and let's talk about what animals were existing at this fucking time period. What mammoths, saber-toothed fucking tigers, fucking vultures. What else? Those short-nosed fucking bears. And you're going to tell me that within 100 years, these fuckers with spears and rocks and shit hunted them into extinction.
Wait.
So
not
Andrew,
a motherfucking
I will tell you this. I will ask you this. What happens when the humans kill all the smaller prey that the saber-toothed tigers subsist on?
No, in 100 years, they're going to wipe out all the fucking
millions
and
and
vertebrates.
millions.
It didn't happen over 100 years. It happened within thousands.
That's one of my notes. It said it happened over 100 years.
Okay, here it is. Here's the theory. So that is, they've always wondered that. They're like, oh, it's the overkill. They came over here. They didn't know species management, and they wiped out all the megafauna, the mammoths, the mastodons, all that shit's gone. But there's no evidence of them hunting predators. There's evidence, they have found mammoth bones with some Clovis points stuck in the bones or whatever, but not a lot. And there was millions and millions of mammoths and shit in North America. They have no idea how many people. They were like, I don't know. And then you look at the large mammals in Africa, which would have been equivalent size. They're fine until modern times, and we overhunted them now, but that's through poaching and firearms and long distance killing. Like, it's.
Do you look at hunter-gatherers don't hunt to extinction though?
No. So I mean that's they've always said that it's the overkill, and that's the reason, coupled with the climate change.
Overkill. I don't know about the overkill. Like, I don't agree with the overkill thing, because I'm not like, yeah, humans wouldn't have that huge an effect on it. But I'm saying that because humans came in here and they made such drastic changes, relatively drastic changes, a completely new species that has the ability to hunt, has the ability to, intelligence and all that, would have killed off or would have changed the ecosystem in such a way that you would have had predators die off because the prey that they're normally hunting is gone.
But you look at it like, we haven't done it yet. We haven't killed off fucking cougars or any bears or anything like that. And we're fucking drastically destroying their fucking ecosystems daily.
But they got smaller, I'm saying. It's like, no, we didn't kill it, but the large megafauna, the ones that are not, because they're large, they probably wouldn't be able to adapt as quickly to these kinds of shifts.
No,
so
I don't
maybe
know.
I'm saying that in support of that, I would be like, that's kind of a reason that but these die-offs did start. There's evidence that these die-offs started before the Younger Dryas.
Yeah.
These were already, there was already a trend towards these things happening. Not necessarily all of the humans may have added an additional stressor and may have happened.
Oh yeah, I can buy that.
But it was already,
We're firmly like into like, there's humans around this time. Before Gilbeki Tepe, what did we think humans, they were hunter-gatherers. Like, that was it at this time period.
I got to get this out because I've been trying to, I just couldn't get it out. So we talked about possible multiple fragments over multiple years.
Yeah.
If you look at the Younger Dryas, the older Dryas, and the oldest Dryas, they all kind of have a sharp rise. I know these are the best things, and people.
I can't believe that shit's real.
I know,
that's
it sounds
amazing.
so stupid.
Well, yeah,
They should fire the name guy. It wasn't fucking Dick Firestorm.
no,
that's for sure.
the name is actually for a Dryas flower. It's like Arctic flower. That would only grow during the warmer periods, and in the colder periods, they would turn into fossils, and they were finding these fossils. I'm like, what the fuck? So it's named after this.
Called the first Dryas and the second Dryas.
Nah, oldest, the older, and the youngest. But there's some people who claim perhaps that, I know like Hancock and Randy Carlson claim like the torrid meteor shower comes along routinely every year, and like they're saying that all these sharp rises in temperature and sharp drops over these three Dryases, and then the subsequent, immediately after the Younger Dryas, we had just as sharp as an increase in temperature, which is just as mysterious and less researched. So they're actually saying that maybe the Earth, instead of experiencing one giant cataclysm from one comet, it may have been multiple ones, like, oh, hit the ice cap, melted. Then they would refreeze. Oh, it come around another, 400 years later, boom, hits it again. And they're saying there was this terrible time for the Earth going through this meteor shower where
we would pick up debris,
and not enough to like obviously cause a global extinction, but enough to cause enough climate change repeatedly over. So that could account for, maybe that's why the megafauna started dying off earlier than just the Younger Dryas, because the climate, if you look at like 2,000 years, it changes drastically like 3 times really quickly. So that could account for it. So I just wanted to mention that before we move on, because if you look at the chart, you're like, okay, yeah, the Younger Dryas is crazy with that really sharp decrease in temperature for like 1,300 years, and then boom, shoots right back up. But the 2 before that are almost as bad. So that could have something to do with it. Because you look at Africa, large mammals still exist. People have been there. That's the cradle, like the start of civilization, they say, right? So people have been there forever, and there's never been a kill-off.
Well, technically, you would still be here.
Before you go on a Dan rant, we got to take a beer break, or else I'm going to have to find a bottle, because I'm like, all right, here, my teeth are floating.
Okay, we went through impact hypothesis. We'll come back with a little more Younger Dryas. We'll be right back.
That's not just the sound of that first sip of Morning Joe. It's the sound of someone shopping for a car on Carvana from the comfort of home.
That's a good blend.
It's time to take it easy, like answering some easy questions to get pre-qualified for a car in minutes.
Talk about starting the morning right.
Just like customizing your terms so your car fits your budget. Visit Carvana.com or download the app to experience car shopping the way it should be. Convenient, comfortable. The comfort of your favorite seat is now your comfy car selling command center, thanks to Carvana.
It doesn't get any better than this.
Your favorite seat's the best spot in the house. Make it even better by entering your license plate or VIN and getting a real offer in minutes.
There really is no place like home.
And speaking of home, Carvana will pick up your car from yours after you finalize your offer. Visit Carvana.com or download the app and sell your car from your comfy place.
Okay, where'd we leave off? Talk about comet.
We're getting ready for a Dan rant.
Comet impacts, loss of megafauna. Let's go to human civilization at the time, because there was definitely, because a lot of times they call this actually the Clover comet, because there was the Clovis comet, because there was this Clovis people at the time in North America.
Right. So if you search Clovis people, or if you've ever talked about like prehistoric, Mesolithic, Paleolithic cultures, the Clovis probably will pop up there. And they're well known because of their certain arrowheads that are found in parts of North America. And they're all very similarly constructed, and these like fluted, like impact carved arrowheads that they use, or use spear points, really. I don't think they really used arrows, but they used mostly spears. And so the Clovis people are a civilization that you see and appears around 11,500 to 11,000 years ago, somewhere around that period. And archaeologists, paleontologists have found, these tool caches and these things, evidence of these spear points embedded in mammoth skeletons and mastodon skeletons and other creatures that they have found, kill pits and these things all across North America. So humans had pretty much span the entire globe at this point, or maybe not to North America, but in North America at least. So you have this Clovis culture that exists in everywhere. Not Clovis people, like Clovis people there. Yeah. Eventually they, this is one of the civilizations that are kind of cited, or people refer to during the Younger Dryas, are saying that, they were wiped out during this period. Like
it's like level decline. 1 empires.
Yeah.
It's level 1.
They are stone tools. Yes. So
but they haven't even made the advancement to bow and arrow yet. Like these are simpletons.
So is it, Dan, people. Are we talking about them? Like, is this the ones that crossed that Bering Land Bridge?
They would have been those people. Yeah, they would have been those people, part of those people.
So this is around like 13,000.
Yeah, right? Like 11,000 years ago.
Okay.
Somewhere around there, 11,500, maybe 12,000 years ago. And so you see this culture in there, and people refer to them as they are perhaps like, this is what you see, a serious decline in some of the tool caches, like where you find them. They're not exactly, it's difficult to date some of these things, but they're saying that's perhaps that this culture may have been seriously affected by this.
Yeah.
Now, human civilization there, as we see, like they're still using stone tools and things like that here in North America, where the humans have reached, but they didn't build any megalithic structures. But apparently around this time, you have structures going up in places like Turkey, which brings you to Göbekli
Tepe. Yeah, we talked about it on a previous case file, where at this time humans around the globe should have been nomadic hunter-gatherers following herds and all the rest. And then in the middle of Turkey, this hill, which turns out to be, when they unearthed it, a series of megalithic stones and circles with relief carvings
And the structure's completely facing like north and south.
It's an astronomical structure that was purposely backfilled for whatever reason. And it dates back to just after Younger Dryas, pretty much.
Right. And as far as we know, it's like completely unique.
It's
and
like
so much older. They thought like Stonehenge was the first like megalithic stone, like astronomical structure, but this is twice
and that
as
was
old.
what 4,000 or 5,000 years ago.
Yeah, like
they figured that is.
Yeah, like 5,600 BC
and
or
it's
something.
just big stones, but it's pretty impressive. But Göbekli Tepe in comparison is just far greater.
The carvings and stuff, like we talked about it before, the relief carvings. So they didn't cut the stones, transport them, and then carve in like a shape of a lizard. They carved the stone with the lizard outwards, like a relief carving. So they had to carve the whole thing at once. And it seemed so far out of archaeology. They're like, this shouldn't be here. This should be Stone Age people with like they followed herds. How could they have a society this complex to be able to build this? Like this would have been a big project. Like you had to like house and feed and drinking water for all the workers. It's like a huge find archaeologically.
Yeah, it definitely when they found this they not necessarily when they found it, but when they examined this, they excavated a lot of these structures and these carvings. It challenged a lot of the theories and overturned a couple, and the idea that, you know, things like religion and spirituality had been products or byproducts of the cultural shift that humans had from hunter-gatherers to agrarian societies. So, you know, the original thought being that agrarian societies had a bit more time. They weren't spending as much effort and things like that, and time, like, you know, moving from place to place, hunting, gathering things, but they didn't spend as much time on daily survival. They had time to create things like art and religion and philosophy. And Göbekli Tepe, the discovery of this, and a time period, you know, dated to a time period where we were still hunter-gatherers, or there's no real evidence for permanent settlements, really, really puts that theory and those theories like out there. It's like, look at this.
It more than doubled the history of megalithic building in humanity. Like it's double the age of Stonehenge. And they're like, this came out of nowhere. So that it instantly sparked debate, like, oh, well, because people always talk about like the linear progression of humans. You know, like modern humans, like we've invented steam power and locomotives, and we made the railway, and then, you know, then we discovered oil, and like there's a slow progression to like now the digital age. Like you can kind of see how we did it. But here it's like out of nowhere, there's just like advanced stone carving, moving giant stones like where it should not have been. So it's like, okay, well, I guess we got all of that. We got to at least, number one, we either got to say like, okay, hunter-gatherers were much more proficient than we give them credit for, or humanity's story needs to be rewritten a little bit at this time. Because they haven't found anything that really, like, they don't see like small stone circles first, and then they find Göbekli Tepe. They find like, I think it is, if it's not, it's got to be one of the biggest megalithic sites in the world, if not the biggest.
It is huge, just not only in its depth, because there is, was it Schmidt? Klaus Schmidt,
yeah.
Klaus Schmidt, who originally, he passed away rather recently in the 2000s, I believe.
Yeah, like maybe
but
10 years ago.
They're still continuing his work, and they're still excavating that site. There are still other things that they believe. There's still other structures that they believe that they have evidence to excavate. So there's other things down there. They're not sure what it is.
They've only done 10%. They've only excavated 10%.
One of the most fascinating parts about this thing for me, or for anyone, is that the fact that it's so well preserved, and that it's what's so well preserved because, like Braden said, it was intentionally, or seems to be intentionally backfilled. Like the people who had built it, or the people who had been there during the time, they filled it in with like large, like not
bucket and sand, basically
sand and like small rocks and stuff in such a way to keep it preserved, to keep the structure standing. And we don't know why.
And that's part of the reason it's so well datable. because it seemed to be filled in it and like relatively quickly. So whatever organic material that they found in it was easy to backdate. They're like, yeah, this all matches. It was definitely at this time, right at the end of the Younger Dryas, pretty much. So I don't know. It's fucking nuts. So that leads to theories of, you get into Graham Hancock theories of like, well, who, like his theory is obviously that an advanced race of people, like a society of people, a civilization, through the cataclysm of the Younger Dryas or the preceding ones or a combination of them, lost whatever they either lost a large chunk of their population, and they instilled this. His theory is they instilled this knowledge to a nomadic, like hunter-gatherer tribe, because they're like, okay, well, our society is pretty much done. Let's try and do what we can to pass our knowledge on, and that's when farming starts and all the rest. So that's his theory.
Yeah, I guess they've like Göbekli Tepe would be the birthplace of agriculture as we know it right now.
I'm pretty sure that's how the story is kind of being rewritten. Like, okay, well, maybe it wasn't, because before didn't they say it was like Sumeria,
Mesopotamia,
yeah,
yeah,
like the dawn of agriculture and
cradle of civilization,
Right. So there are scientists who do put forth a theory that perhaps the people who lived at Göbekli Tepe would have actually had more time than you think to be to do these things, to put this stuff up, because and not have to resort to like agrarian, traditional, what we think of as, farming techniques and things like that. They thought that there's evidence to support that there was plentiful game, like there would be enough for like migratory species coming through there, either antelopes and whatever's the species of animals and food that would come through there were plentiful enough to allow people to kind of permanently settle there without having to farm.
But the crazy thing is, they're like, when they excavate Göbekli Tepe, they find no evidence of garbage or inhabitants or tools or anything. So it's like whoever built it cleaned it of all debris and then just filled it in as a time capsule. There's nothing else there. There's no signs of like habitation. They don't. So that's like they don't really know.
I do know. I'm not sure on what levels, but they did. I know I did read a few places that they did find the bones of like certain animals that had been native to that area at the time. Like they did find those within the site. So that's some of the ways that they can date it, is they put those bones in there. So it kind of supports the idea that this was probably some sort of religious site, that perhaps like these were either offerings or some sort.
Well, yeah, that makes sense.
It's interesting because it's almost like they were anticipating being wiped out, and they wanted to like preserve their history. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I like that a lot. That really lines up with Hancock's theory that like
time capsule.
Maybe there was an advanced civilization, and they were just getting pulverized like this by a meteor here. A couple hundred years, they're trying to survive. They get wiped, like shit gets reset again on them, and
vampires coming on asteroids,
vampires invading. We've talked about it a bunch of times, but like, what better way to preserve your knowledge and stuff than, like hide it in these big structures, in the mathematics of the building of them and stuff. That's why I'm so excited for this to be like excavated more and mapped out, because I'm wondering if like, much like the pyramids, we're going to start seeing these measurements that add up to weird things and that we start to unlock.
For sure. And well, the Hancock theory, it doesn't stop at just Göbekli Tepe. They're like, because all the skeptics are like, okay, well, why would an advanced civilization just stop at one site? Like if they're going to keep building. But then you go with like the work of, what was his name? Was it Schock? Robert Schock, the original geologist who's dating the Sphinx enclosure. Because the Sphinx is like, there's no inscriptions. There's not really any mention of the Sphinx in inscriptions in Egypt. They just kind of assume because it's there that obviously it's got to be Egyptian. But their theory is like, no, if you date the Sphinx enclosure, like the weathering, the last time it was that wet in that region was at the same time, like end of the Younger Dryas. So like, okay, well, and at that same time, the precession of the equinox, we would have been in the age of Leo, which of the Sphinx looks a hell of a lot like a lion's body. The face is obviously all fucked up. So that the theory is like, well, maybe because in the age of the age of the pyramids, it was the age of Taurus. And there's
so what you're trying to tell me is that the Egyptians gave that thing a facelift, like that lady redid that painting in Italy.
Well, I'm not saying that, but Hancock and the boys are, and it makes sense.
Right. So
geology says
I do have a problem with that, because if I look at the Leo constellation, I don't see a lion.
I don't see any of those fucking things shown.
Like I'm not 100% sure when we go with that one. It's yeah. If you tell me that looks like a bull, if Taurus looks like a bull, you could trace it out for me, and I'd still be like, I don't know.
I mean, I'm just saying that the geology of the Sphinx enclosure, they're like, this looks like crazy rainfall, and the last time rainfall was in this place in that high of volume would have been about the 12,800 years ago.
Right. And the competing theory is, I know another one of the is it Mark Lehner? One of the other is one of the prominent Egyptologists from, at least from the United States, published a couple things. Him and a couple other people have dated, they've looked more closely because of Shock and his theories. Like, they've gone in and looked at the Sphinx and this, and their idea is that the Sphinx, or they've dated it to be around the time of that Khufu had existed, and that's the kind of leading theory, is that was built during, not necessarily built, but they're saying that it was carved from a stone that actually was there at the time.
Yeah, so I mean, geology doesn't lie, so it's either one or the other, and that's not us for decide. But yes, obviously it's highly debated, because the Sphinx is still considered part of Khufu's reign. It's the same time as the Great Pyramid. That's like the leading theory. But Hancock's, they're like, well, is it just Göbekli Tepe, or is there more sites? Because if we go with this theory, let's say this. So 20,000 years ago, sea levels were 400 feet lower. So like we call it like the Bering Land Bridge, like from Alaska to Russia. That's all one continent back then. Indonesia is all one continent. Like the Caribbean, like Gulf of Mexico, would barely exist. Like, we had all this land that has been swallowed by the sea. So their theories are like, maybe there was a civilization, and it could have been many reasons. Like, most civilizations in history die because of some type of disease, right? Or like a lot of people say, Mayans, it might have been a disease or whatever. So it could have been a lot of things. And then the sea swallows them up. So there could be a lot of the evidence for an ancient civilization is maybe buried underwater, under sediment. You may never even find it if it was ever there. So that's kind of where the theory kind of hits a stone wall. You're like, okay, you got Göbekli Tepe for sure. So until we start finding more stuff like that, that's kind of where it's
or Atlantis, sitting. Yeah.
Well, that's always been like Atlantis, because they always date. We talked about on the Atlantis episode too. They date like 9,600 years before Solon, which is whatever. So that it coincides with the Younger Dryas boundary, the same time frame. So that's kind of
every single like biblical event has like, and religion has some sort of flood.
Yep.
Right? So it's like, and there's stories of a flood passed down. So like, maybe this is that, and it's like stories from the civilization that was flooded out.
Well, yeah, but the flood myth is, so for me, like, a lot of people say like, okay, if it's an impact, it raised these sea levels, but it didn't it wasn't like one day you woke up and the sea was 50 feet up, right? It was like as far as like,
oh no, I get
like
that.
a couple hundreds of years of
sea level rise.
That sea rise.
Which is
maybe it's like telephone over like 1,000 of years, right?
Yeah, maybe.
Where it's like
that makes the most sense.
Rising water, and then like closer to now, it's like, yeah, there was a giant flood, but it's like, no, we've lost the translation a little bit.
But think of this, because we talked about the Clovis, right? But there's actually evidence now. It's called, I pulled it up here. It's in the Yukon. What's the cave called? Blue Cave. The Bluefish Caves in Yukon. That's what it is. So they like 20 years ago, they found this cave in Yukon with bones, and they dated it to 24,000 years ago. So 10,000 years before they think humans came. And it was ridiculed for a while, but then published in Nature magazine, probably one of the most prestigious science journals in the world. And now it's pretty much accepted. Like, yes, there was some type of human culture in the Yukon, which at some time in the Ice Age, parts of Yukon and Siberia and Alaska were actually free of ice randomly. where the rest of Canada and like Greenland is full of 3-kilometer ice sheets. So there could have been people so say you have 24,000 years, that's the hunter-gatherer, you have 10,000 more years of building your civilization. The oldest Dryas comes, knocks you out, then you have Clovis people, like, I don't know. I'm just saying, like, we keep finding new things in the archaeological record that are like, oh, push it back farther. Göbekli Tepe, oh, nope, megalithic structures, another 6,000 years before. So it's just a matter of time, I think, before we find the next big one. And they're like, okay.
I listened to Freddie Silva do a talk that he thought that potentially there was like an ancient civilization that had mastered the elements. And
Ancient Templars, basically.
Yep. And then the Fire Nation attacked.
Avatars, and they had elongated skulls. And he was talking about that, and that perhaps like that civilization was getting wiped out, and then was passing the information on to, humans at the time, starting with Göbekli Tepe that we know of now, and that's like the last remnants of this culture. And then he was kind of pointing out to like why do we look at humans practicing elongating their heads?
The Egyptians, yeah.
Yeah, it's because they're mimicking the power of like what this species had, and they had full control over like vibrations in nature, and that's how they were moving these big stones. It gets really wild really quick.
I personally think that these advanced cultures passed down their information to the Egyptians and explained to them that the Detroit Lions are going to fucking suck. So you want to remodel the Sphinx because you're not going to want that fucking
Lions
thing
suck,
around.
brother. Get them out of there.
Yeah. They're like, get rid of that. Get rid of the lion head. You turn it into a fucking weird person without a nose. It's going to be way cooler than
they knock
lion.
the nose off. Like, fuck, let's leave it. Bury it in the sand.
Yeah,
Let's get rid of it.
The to Braden's point, I will speak to that and say that in terms of like tradition, like strange, well, what we would consider strange traditions of things like elongating heads, the entire Spanish, when they speak, a lot of their words, like they have a lisp, and they will end things like gracias. They'll say it like that.
That's
and
crazy.
they say it up to this day because only one king did it, and then it
Really?
became popular, and it was considered, cosmopolitan, nouveau riche, whatever. Like that was the way to do it. So I would not put it past people to be like, humans are strange in the things that we do, but it would not surprise me if that, people born into royalty or some sort of chieftain had an elongated head, and then they would do that.
Who was it? Was it Agamemnon that had the elongated head?
Akhenaten, yeah.
He had some deformities. I don't know if it was elongated head, but he had some other stuff.
They call him the alien.
Perhaps.
People refer to him as
he was
the alien king.
pharaoh.
The
right?
alien king.
Yeah.
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 Because he looked like
Pretty
a
sure
fucking
he had
alien.
bizarre.
Yeah.
For sure.
He
I got
probably
one of
had a
those too.
perhaps, strange physique.
Or they're modeling their head
Happens
stretching.
after inbreeding.
They're modeling their head stretching after an alien being they seen, which had an elongated skull.
Well,
Sure.
and then he goes on to say that like maybe that's why you see all these carvings of flying ships and stuff. It's because it wasn't aliens; it was this advanced culture had advanced technology that's been wiped away.
There would be remnants somewhere. Though,
Well, what if it got buried? What if it's under the ocean, buried under sediment? You'll never find it. The ocean's way too big.
But we're finding things.
What?
You know what
maybe,
I mean? Like,
maybe we will, but we've talked about it before. Say this happened today. Say humans today, all of a sudden they're like, all the space agencies are like, listen, there's these comets coming, a fragmented comet. We might be able to deflect one or two, but there's no chance. There's 40 pellets shotgunning the planet. Like prepare for the worst.
Here's where we expect them to hit.
Right?
oh my God. Watch as many episodes of The Office on Netflix as you can before you fucking
Get them
die.
in. That
Get
shit
'em
neans
in.
to be written down and saved
Yeah,
for
it's
the
important.
eras.
Yeah,
Man.
but think about it. So that's coming, and there's nothing we can do. Maybe they don't even let it warn us. They're like, let's let people live out their lives in peace, and just it fucking happens one day.
I don't want to know. Just let me
just
die.
boom,
let
it
me
is-
just dead.
It pelts North America. It pelts the remaining ice sheets in Greenland, vaporizing what's left, instantly changing the climate, like relatively in geological terms, overnight. Within like 10 or 20 years, like fucking the glaciers are starting to form again in new places. It lights, I think they say the black mat through their calculations, lit 10% of the Earth's biomass on fire. 10% of the Earth's forests go up in flames. And we're living through this. It burns all our like high power transfer lines through the woods. We knocks out power grids, the food supply. Like our civilization overnight would be toast. Modern civilization, like reliant on power generation and refrigeration. It would be
we would see a mass human die-off.
Huge,
instantly.
dude, huge.
Like all huge, dense population centers, mass casualties.
But let's just hypothetically, who's left? Who's left that survives how they always have in the planet?
Well, those lucky enough to survive have a fucking tough road ahead of them. They're like, you're not, there's no electricity.
No, that's what I'm saying. The people who really survive are the people who live still in the Amazon, in like the middle of the fucking jungles of Africa, like the people who still are living like they did 5,000 years ago.
Get hit, yeah.
Right?
Or they're the people who have mastered the art of the fist of the North Star. And you're wandering the wastes, exploding people's heads by punching them 9 times in the chest.
Or that. One or the other.
So not us.
Not us. Definitely not us.
Not you guys, maybe me.
Maybe Dan.
Oh. I'm dead.
Well, like say
electricity's gone. I got to camp for the rest of my life. Done.
Like how much of our buildings though and stuff would be leveled like and pulverized. Like if you shattered like one of our skyscrapers, like just pulverized it, like there's just going to be chunks left of.
Well,
like,
I'm just saying, like most of the Earth will be fine physically because like there's only so many places the comet can hit, unless it's like a giant like 800-mile asteroid that just destroys the planet instantly.
You know what? You can't tell people. You can't, because you're going to say, listen, guys, you have to avoid these areas. It's not going to be safe. You're going to get fucking murdered by a comet. And these people are going to say, it's my fucking right to go to those areas. I'm free to do so. I'm allowed to. I'm a free person. And this is a free country. So I'm going there. And then they die.
And then they die.
Then they die.
Right?
You would have the comet naysayers.
Yeah. They'd be like, bullshit. It's
denying
not real.
the comet.
Comets are real. They're not real.
Not fucking real. God wouldn't make comments.
I prayed it away. I prayed it.
But
it's gone. It's going to fuck off.
Like very quickly, like life is like, if we didn't get hit, our areas, right? Dan, you move here because I don't want to say your area too. It doesn't make sense. So you moved here. You flew here when this hit. Are we surviving, boys? Are we surviving? Like now in the woods, there's no energy. Like
I'm toast.
Hey, we are probably in the top percentage because we have hunted and I have skinned animals, and you know I kind of know. I would know enough that I could probably, if as long as there wasn't too many people hunting, because that's a thing. Because right now only like less than 1% of the population actually hunts, but say only 50% of the population gets wiped out by whatever. Now everyone's trying to hunt. Now we do kill off all the remaining mammals because there's not that many. There's way too many humans to support hunting. Like it's not feasible.
Listen, I'll keep you guys alive if you feed me.
Fair. Okay, make sure you go to the station.
Trade exchange.
Grab all the drugs and medicine you can. Well, we're good for at least one lifetime.
Listen, I don't want to say anything. I got you.
Yeah, thank you.
Good
Perfect.
You're fine.
Anyways, I'm just saying, like, if we got wiped out by a fucking fragmented comet that smashed North America, we're toast. Modern society's toast. The ones who can carry on as normal are the hunter-gatherers. The people who haven't really changed in thousands of years. Those fuckers who stab people in the islands off, where's that, like off of India or whatever? Where's that fucking island that they...
Oh, yeah, the
guys that shot that Christian.
Yeah,
those guys,
missionary guy.
Those guys are the king of the world now.
Yeah.
Well, they told that guy not to go there.
No, that's his fault.
Like, there's a reason
God
they
help
say
him.
not to go to that island.
Well, that's why I know we're going to be okay, because Donald Trump is going to morph into like Galactus and eat the asteroid out of the fucking world because he's the fucking Messiah savior and everybody's good. It's fine.
Wild times. All right. Final thoughts on the Younger Dryas impact or Younger Dryas, whatever theory you think.
I'd like to subscribe to. I think I like this because it's feels so much like fantasy, where like there was an ancient civilization that had way more knowledge than we realize, and they just got pulverized through this time, and basically a small collection at the end was left. And like we said, it was hunter-gatherers, and they passed this knowledge on and they backfilled it and then they moved on. But that like information has slowly died. And over the years, they had to adapt to being hunter-gatherers to survive. And we've just collected like the stories through the, through time
Myths
of like,
and shit.
the great floods and myths and all that stuff comes from this other civilization. And we've just been passing along this, like trying to pass along the story, and we maybe mix it up all the time.
Right.
But I do think everything's hidden in the, like, we're going to find a bunch of hidden information once they get Göbekli Tepe out. I'm sure there's mathematical things about it.
More
that are
shit's
odd.
coming. More shit's coming.
There's always money in the banana stand, man.
It's in the banana stands.
Dan, what do you think?
There are some things, the impact hypothesis, my journey on this whole research for this topic has been quite interesting, quite enlightening, is what I can say. At first I was like, okay, the lake hypothesis is solid. That's whatever.
That's a good one. Impact
hypothesis is it sounds kind of like bullshit. Impact hypothesis, yes, gaining ground. Whether it is I don't think it's a direct cause. I think it might have been an added thing in there. So if we find more evidence about it, yeah, sure. It sounds super thing. The whole thing about having a advanced civilization that for some reason went to Göbekli Tepe in Turkey from wherever they were, then that was the place that they ended up settling, and then teaching these people how to, I guess, carve stone, but they don't teach them. Well, I guess my conception of an advanced society is that they would be able to write, or they'd have some sort of language. They'd probably be able to use and make pottery or something like that. That's kind of the normal markers for an advanced society, but we don't find any of that at Göbekli Tepe.
Not yet.
So, so some of that. So if we found some of that stuff and there was like writing and tablets and things like that, there would be like, where did this writing come from? We knew writing has evolved out of this. Göbekli Tepe is an absolutely amazing and fascinating site. It challenges a lot of the traditional theories that we have, and it's great because it's a really good way to show that science does adapt. I really kind of get miffed about people being like, oh, it's big academia, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, no, science changes.
Just slow.
You just need the evidence. You need to be able to support your theories. You can't just go out there and be like, this star looks like a lion. The Sphinx looks like a lion. So it's made during Leo, whatever. Like, you putting that together is like, that's what, like, the interpretation of the stars are different all over the world. And what they see, like the Chinese have like 132 constellations, while the Greeks have like 22, whatever. But, I think it's really neat that if you want to look more into the Younger Dryas, it's one of those things that is an interminably complicated situation. Like, paleoclimatology is a cool thing. Like, it encompasses geology, anthropology, archaeology, paleontology, all of this stuff, like all of these specializations in science, and it brings them all together to try and explain this one event is super cool and super neat, and people should look at it.
Yeah, complex for sure. Andrew, what do you think?
Why? You asked Dan already. Like, you have to ask me first before you ask Dan, because now there's no fucking point in me saying anything.
You gotta say something.
I think it's fucking terrifying. I think we should be putting all our fucking money and budgets into fucking NASA to protect us from the torrid
meteor shower.
Meteor stream.
Yeah.
That's our
what's there to say that this isn't going to happen again right awaway? This could happen at any point in time. We have like that one we talked about, the Tuskegee or whatever. Nobody had any idea that was coming.
Tunguska,
Tuskegee, whatever the fuck it's called.
The fuck no.
That's why you asked Dan first. Or after, sorry.
No, I like it's one of the facts that I wanted to check in. That's
a good point. I'm all for putting more money into NASA. 100%.
Seriously,
give them all the money. I don't care.
That is the most imminent threat that we have to deal with. Is it not?
It could be.
It is it would
terrifying.
be considered a global and existential threat. So I would be like, yes, give them money.
The stat I had heard about that is that currently we're spending money on like looking at asteroids that could potentially kill us. The budget for that is the same as one McDonald's franchise operating for a year. Like, that's the same budget. Like, that was the equivalent. I don't know. I didn't look that up myself.
McDonald's new spicy McNuggets?
I mean, goddamn.
Right? Listen,
they brought the McRib back, okay?
No, listen. We need to have a staff of fucking Alberta oil field workers
On standby.
on standby.
Yep.
All right,
On retainer.
to drill into those motherfuckers,
Frack
ready to
it.
go right away.
Yeah. I mean,
God damn it!
I could agree that the Younger Dryas boundary and the like whatever happened, not just the Younger Dryas, but the previous two Dryases as well. Because if you look at the progression of the warming, Andrew just can't take the fucking the older and the oldest Dryas. This is impossible. He just can't do it.
It sounds so dumb. It's like something I would come up with. It just sounds.
It does sound.
ridiculous.
I'm not going to lie with you there. It like they could maybe come up with something better, but it's all based on that fucking flower that was fossilized and blah blah blah. But if you look at the warming from the last ice age to modern times, if you take away these three Dryases, like these crazy sporadic global climate change events, it's pretty much linear to normal times. So something obviously drastic happened. I think personally, I don't think one theory, I think, yes, it was probably an emptying of the flood basin of Lake Agassiz or Lake Missoula or a combination of both. But I also think it could very easily have also happened with some type of impact, whether it be air bursts or a combination of air bursts and impacts. And this was such a complicated event is why no one can make a solid theory stick, because it might be a combination of both. It might have happened where the Lake Agassiz emptied, but at the same time we're going through the fucking meteor shower and boom, we get air bursts. And then that's because a lot of people say, I was reading that the emptying into the conveyor belt, should have stalled temperatures for 100 or 200 years, but not for 1300. So that could have been a combination of events. And then the black mat, sure. Yes, the marshy lands could account for some of the black mat, but you find it all over North America. You find it in Syria. They found it in Antarctica, the impact proxies. So eventually I think what I think is going to happen in the next 10 or 20 years in our lifetime is this theory is going to gain more and more ground. They're going to find more evidence. And Dick Firestone and the boys are going to prove their theory sound. But right now, obviously, I can't say it is because it's not. And they'll even tell you that. But eventually, I think they'll get it.
And what's your thoughts on humans in this time, the human race at this time?
Well, if you go with the linear progression of humans, we've been around they keep pushing it back. I think now they're saying 400,000 years at least with our brain capacity. To think that we're stuck forever at hunter-gatherer smashing bones and rocks together, I wouldn't be surprised if eventually they find more Göbekli Tepe type stuff. They're like, okay, we got to push human technology back. They were working with stones. So I think humans were more advanced at one time. We're reset. Do I think that we transferred our knowledge to hunter-gatherers? Maybe not. Maybe we just were more advanced at one time, and through just like the Mayans built insane pyramids and the Aztecs built insane pyramids, and then their society collapsed for whatever reason. That's probably happened so many times that's been erased through geology of the changing of the earth that we may never find it. So I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that we've become advanced. Maybe not.
Dude, I like that too, that we've just been getting that advanced for way longer than we ever think.
Yeah, not spaceships or power generation, but we've had societies and they've collapsed so many times that they've been erased by the earth swallowed them up and we never find them. And there's no way.
So you think we're at the peak right now? Is the peak the furthest we've ever got as a race?
I think this is the furthest we've ever got, because if you look at the climate over the last 10,000
we're setting
years,
high scores.
The climate's been steady. It's been relatively steady. I know we talk about climate change and that is happening and stuff, but it's relatively steady for the last 10,000 years. Nothing really too extreme. I mean, they think we'll talk about another time maybe, but the dark ages, there was a little mini ice age, a rapid cooling, but not very much. And there's a couple of those that, go with the reset of humanity from, Roman Empire to dark ages, and then the plague, and then Middle Ages, we building cathedrals, then plague, and that does coincide with other small cooling events, but really, really small compared to Younger Dryas. So that's what I think. I think we've been advanced to the point where we got reset and it's been swallowed up, and we may never find it. That's my personal thoughts on it, but fun topic. Fun topic. Something a little different for alien theorists, but get a touch on everything here and there.
Now, why don't we, before we get into anything like that, we had the first meat draw in January.
Oh, yeah.
It was won by @Tory Story 303. Congrats for that. As you're listening to this, funny enough, it's the February meat draw.
Starting up.
So all you got to do is go to our socials, find the meat draw post, tag 3 of your friends, and give us a follow, and you're entered. If you're on our Patreon for $10 or more, you're already entered into the raffle.
Yep.
And so it's a win-win. Get yourself a shirt, a mug, a sticker, or it's going to be a sweater, a mug, and a sticker.
Oh,
and
wait. I got something to add to the meat draw this month. I forgot to tell you.
Oh, the book.
So we have.
You did tell us.
Yeah.
I forgot what was the name of the book.
Succubus or something.
Patreon supporters wrote in a book. It's called Succubus. It's coming out soon, and we said we'll put it in the meat draw this month. And next case file, we'll give a shout out to the book because I think it actually comes out next week. So we'll do that next week. But
perfect. Get on there. You're gonna have till March 1st before the meat draw is drawn. Anyways, let's get into some space news.
What are we working with?
Well, first off, the Earth was spinning faster last year than at any other time in the past 50 years. Well, it didn't feel like it.
No, it couldn't go by fast enough.
I mean, goddamn.
I mean, even Earth is tired of 2021.
Yeah.
It's trying to speed it up. It's tired of 2020.
Yeah, so I guess atmospheric pressure and winds and ocean currents affect these, give slight changes to the Earth's rotation, and it's kind of a normal thing. It happens from time to time, and this year it was just a little faster.
0.4 seconds.
Yeah. Fucking
flying, baby.
Still faster.
Yeah, not lying.
0.4 seconds faster than last time.
Yeah.
Honestly, like at that measurement, I don't know if I trust our instruments. I'm like,
hey, in a Formula One race, that would be like miles.
Yes.
Well,
yeah.
Last year they're going to say they don't have to add, every once in a while they have to add a leap second to the actual clock. And so now they're not going to have to do it because it's usually about a year and a half. They add a leap second to our clocks.
What?
Yep.
They're meddling with our clocks? I never even knew this.
Well, they got to add a leap year because we actually have like a 36 or 365.25 rotation. So every 4 years they fucking add a day. And every year and a half they have to add 1 second. But last year was 0.4 seconds faster, so they may not have to do that.
They're just going to round it.
Round it up. Yeah.
Yeah. Perfect. What else did I have here? Oh, these were actually pretty cool. Breathtaking close-up of Mars Grand Canyon. You're going to be able to visit that in 2028. Part of Elon Musk's partnered with Amazon Grand Canyon helicopter flights from Vegas to Mars.
Mm-hmm.
Or Mars Vegas, I guess it'll be then. We'll probably have a full Vegas on Mars.
Yeah, totally.
The pictures are astonishing, though, like pretty detailed, more than I thought they were when I read the headline. I don't know I guess we can't pull it up. Go to sciencealert.com, look up Mars Grand Canyon.
It's crazy because on Mars, similar to the moon, like the moon is smaller with less gravity. So like mountains can get way bigger and caverns get way bigger. Same on Mars. This fucking Mars Grand Canyon, 8 to 10 kilometers deep. Insane.
810 kilometers long. Like it's
a big fucking canyon. Not
a big canyon.
It must have been, it's probably formed, just going to say it, by an ancient comet impact on the Mars ice caps, causing drastic flooding similar to Earth. I don't fucking know idea.
Yeah. Those of you who've seen,
either.
I've never been to the Grand Canyon. Any of you guys?
I was there one time.
Was it breathtaking?
It's quite grand, I would say.
I've just never been, but so I wasn't sure if when you see it, do you go like, holy?
It's
do you like, I'm so small
like,
and insignificant.
That's a big
like
hole.
That big?
It's huge. It lives up to its name. And I went to the place. It was like a tourist spot where they have like a a glass floor where you walk over the Grand Canyon, and you just see the tourists from all over the world just like cowering. They're like grabbing the rail, like trying to scurry across and shit, and then you jump behind them and slam it, like boom, freaks them right out. It was awesome.
Yeah. Well, the Grand Canyon is actually 5 times shallower and 10 times shorter than the Mars Grand Canyon.
Yep. So that could only.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
So I think we start a petition, because once Mars becomes a colony, we're going to be like one big human colony. We should just be calling it the Canyon on Earth from now on.
well, think about it. Mount Everest is under 10,000 meters high. So it's like a Mount Everest size canyon.
Yeah,
It's fucking nuts.
It's Mount Everest in reverse.
Yeah, just carved into the ocean, into the crust. Cool shit.
What else did I have here? Did you guys have any space news?
Those are the two. Those are two fun ones.
Those are the two top ones. Why don't we fire up the Randomatron and do a fan submission?
Randomatron coming up. Dialing up.
I'm glad it's working this week.
Yep, we're good. Comes the teletype. Got it.
Wow. Amazes me every time, this thing. All right, this is a submission on our Discord server. This is the first one we've ever actually got pulled out of the Randomatron from here. Wow.
Amazing.
So if you're on our Patreon, you're on our Discord, you can submit fan stories to our fan stories board. Is that what they're called? Message board?
What's a
channel?
Fan stories
Channel? Yeah,
fan stories
channel.
channel. Fan stories channel.
Our family fan stories channel, and there's always a chance that the Randomatron will pick it up. This is from, should I say the username?
Yeah.
Is that fine?
Do it up.
Yeah.
Hell of a twist. And this is her story. Just retold this story recently and realized I've been meaning to tell it here for a while. It's been a while since I posted. Been lurking due to life and moving. So my very last rental was a 110-year-old character heritage house. Our sunroom and living room would actually get a horrible smell if it had rained too heavily. Found out from the landlord it used to be a homestead, and he figured the smell was due to a dead horse or animal buried somewhere on the property. Just a nice moist horse corpse
No big deal.
underground in your house. Lovely. That's good. That's good juju, I'm sure. Well, last June, my cousin and sister came to visit. After a couple drinks, we got onto the topic of spirits and Ouija boards. Eventually, I was convinced to do a Ouija session in my house.
Nice.
Obviously, none of us owned an actual Ouija board, so naturally, we made our own using an old pizza box. Meh. Everyone knows it doesn't work unless it's stamped Hasbro.
Has to be Hasbro.
Yep. Has to be Hasbro.
Has to be Hasbro.
100%.
They imbue it with whatever necessary magic at the Hasbro facility.
It's probably children's blood.
They have
Orphan's
7 dark sorcerers on staff.
All times.
Yeah.
All times.
Hasbro is just that's the acronym for the first letter of all their names, all the sorcerers' names.
Yep.
So, anyways, overall, we had a good session. You got pizza.
Hell yeah.
Overall, we had a good session. I did come across the notebook I took notes in while packing. I'll look for it here again soon. I do remember one of the spirits we connected with said his name was Za, and he died in a car crash in 1992 in Alberta. Quick Google search didn't give us any results. Maybe I'll have to do a deep dive into that one day. This couldn't have been more than a couple years or a couple days later. I let my dogs out for their morning business while I had a smoke. That's when I noticed my cat on the roof. I snapped 2 quick pictures because I thought it was cute and funny. I uploaded the pictures on Facebook, woke the kids up, took them to school, and went to work. It wasn't until I received a comment on the pictures a couple hours later that I even noticed it. There was nothing there when I took the picture, and I took them one after another. I tried multiple times to recreate it. And Hell of a Twist sent in 2 pictures. Zell, I don't know if you can pull them up, that appear to be it looks like the head,
It's like
or like a spear or something.
Yeah, it looks like a fucking. It's a goat.
Oh, why are you playing fucking spooky music?
That's what I do.
Yeah, that's. fucking
It
too
looks
much,
like
man.
it looks like either I can't tell if that's a shoulder or the top of a head, and I can see the top of the eyes.
It's a
Is
ghost,
what I'm looking at.
ghostly
You can see
apparition.
eyes. I can't.
Well,
see
if
eyes.
if you look at the first picture that Zell has up, the first one there, if you look at that and you look closely at the image, like I can kind of see a slight round below, and that's what I see anyways, is like a head of hair and like two shallow eyes, but it's definitely some sort of figure, and it's obviously moving. And it looks like to me like the roots are showing on top. Like, do you see like there's some a dark patch on top of the figure? I can almost clearly see an ear when my imagination. It's like looking at one of those weird fucking, paintings that's all the mixtures. You got to unfocus your eyes a little bit to see it.
It's a definite ghostly apparition. 100%.
No, that is creepy.
It's fucking creepy.
But honestly, it's very fitting with how creepy that doorway looks. Like, it creeped me out. And it smells like rotting horses.
Yeah, that's fucked. Get out of that house.
Yeah.
It's the ghost of Seabiscuit. Wants revenge.
It's interesting to get those kind of answers from a Ouija board too. I wonder if anyone wants to do some deep diving of anyone dying in a car crash in Alberta in 1992 with some sort of name Za, or Za in the name.
Oh, is it Zo? Maybe it was supposed to. Maybe they thought.
Or they were a pizza delivery man.
Zozo.
Yeah. Anything.
Oh, I
if we ever
delivered
play
the Za.
Listen, if
He was
we ever play
summoned by the
Ouija,
pizza board.
and if it goes to fucking Zed, it's done. We're fucking
Flip
done.
it.
Flipping the table over.
Going right to Zozo every time,
No Zeds.
Right to Zozo.
We don't want nothing to do with that shit.
or Zelzel. One of the two.
Was it a Zach
just
or
as
was
bad.
it a
That's awesome. That's
just as bad.
ZZ?
The Man of Steel himself.
great story. I love that. That's fuck. I love a good Ouija board story.
Initials were ZA.
Zal.
All right. So you got a theory of the week?
I think Andrew had a theory of the week. Fucking messaged us earlier. We gave him a thumbs up. Yeah, I think we got a two. There was so much good shit this week. It was tough. There was a lot.
Yeah, talk about some of that good stuff really quick.
There was a lot of good
go into detail.
memes.
My personal favorite was the one of me, someone photoshopped, and it's like your face when you see the word photography. I had a pretty good laugh at that one.
Well, yeah. Usually it's like the alien outside the window, but they just put Braden's face.
That face. I had me stealing the whatever Declaration of Independence.
Yeah, the
that was a good
National
one.
Treasure style. Yeah.
National Treasure style. There was some gold stuff.
Good
last
stuff.
couple of days.
I mean, it was a great week for memes. Just all the events that took place in that
All right, I got
beautiful
him.
nation's capital there.
Okay, first of all, he's not theory out of the week, but we're giving him a shout out because he's had a really shitty day. He deserves it. He's a beauty. He's all over Discord. He's one of our favorite fucking members on Discord. Lizard Caveman.
yeah.
We feel for you, buddy. We love you. You're a beauty.
Take care, man.
Hold in there, brother.
And our official theory of the week is Aaron Richard Bukak. Bukak. Not Bukaki.
Just
Bukak.
Bukak.
I think we should repost this image if we can. It's the fucking funniest thing I've seen on our Discord in a really long time.
Which one's that?
He posted a picture of the world's oldest tractor. And
that was
on it,
so
he says,
fucking funny.
he says, just wait till you see what I've got in my freezer.
God damn it. That made me laugh. That made me laugh for like
Listen.
5 whole minutes. Like I was fucking cracking up.
Our Facebook group's got gold. There's been tons of good shit with like Braden's face
Lots of
and
good
like
stuff.
everybody's roasting Braden. Awesome, hilarious.
That shit was funny.
This guy's funnier than all of us.
That was fucking golden. Like that
This
was probably,
Aaron Richard
that's
Bocock?
probably honestly, that was probably one of the funniest.
Dan cracked up.
Honestly,
That was
that's probably
gold.
one of the funny. For some reason, that made me laugh like
gold.
more than anything else. Like I was just like, "Fuck!" That's what. Just thinking about the oldest tractor in somebody's freezer was funny, and the fact about the whole story about something being in your freezer for like fucking the Minnesota Iceman being stuck in your freezer for 6 years or some shit. Fuck, that
Giggled
just
my
made me
ass off
really,
last
really
time.
It was
laugh.
pretty funny. I had a good laugh.
It was hilarious. It's
It's like, hey,
gold.
you guys want to see something cool? Everybody's over, like, 1970, whatever, getting drunk, hanging out. Hey, you guys want to see something cool? Like, it's fucking
Wait,
oldest tractor.
is this the oldest tractor? Can we see
Is there
it?
a dead body in that freezer? Even better. Boom.
He's like, I
Oldest
probably
tractor.
shouldn't show you guys this.
Fucking gold.
I shot this out in the Minnesota wilderness one day. That was really funny. Yeah,
Fuck.
it made me
A
crack
lot
up
of the
little bit.
memes though about the Capitol building riots and storms though may have been reused or not reused, so we couldn't really tell which were original or not. But there are a lot of good shit about that too. I mean,
Hilarious.
great. Choose your character.
Oh, that was good. I
Choose
saw
your,
that long.
Oh, dude, so funny. Just obviously that's a really shitty event for America, and we feel bad for you, but
5 people lost their lives after that bullshit.
that's fucked.
Crazy.
Fucked, man.
Fucking crazy. You lost your life over a fucking guy that looks like he ground up some fucking Doritos and took a fucking little roll like your dog when he's trying to dry off. A guy that does not give a fuck about you. The guy that barely even helped Kevin McAllister out as a douchebag. He is. I said it. I don't care.
We don't talk about politics, but sometimes these guys say, fuck, God damn it. What is going on?
I mean, you took away the guy's social media and everybody's complaining about it. He's still the president of the United States of a fucking America. He could make a press conference and denounce everything that took place.
Yeah, we'll get into this.
Yeah,
in
we'll
the
do some more
hours,
after
but
hours on that.
You know
Sorry,
what? It
sorry,
does.
I'm just
It doesn't. I'm not
fucking
surprised. I
angry.
am not surprised. I find it a little odd that you choose to say something now that the liberals have all the power. Interesting. So,
What do you mean? I'm a conservative. I vote conservative.
Well, we'll get to the bottom of this. We'll get to the bottom of this in after
No,
hours.
it is-
All right.
Just to let her, conservative in Canada is extremely liberal. So.
It's in Canada, I don't know why. Where the fuck is my Zeltron music? Yeah, conservative in Canada we have we got center left and we got center left, and that's liberal conservative, but different. Anyways, if you're not supporting the show already on Patreon for your early access to case files, bonus content, and the rest of all the shit we do on there for you, head over to patreon.com/Alien Theorists podcast or find the link in the description. Was that too loud for you? Or you're just twitching your mustache? All right, this week's Patreon supporters, we got Lyndon Shepherd, Slug Dog.
Number 16.
What?
Lyndon, 16. Just had to
Oh, okay,
say
there you go. Slug Dog went up to $10 a month. Give a big old round of applause to the Palladian gentleman supporting at the top tier. Appreciate it. Fuck yeah. Cody Bumgardner, Stefan Clendenin, Powell Betkoski, Christel Rowland, David from Texas, Serge Duchette, Voop de Boop went up. That's a great fucking name. Voop de Boop went up to $10. $10 pledge from That's Weird Ziggy. Noel, Jordan Thurman, a full 1-year pledge from Simon Griffiths. Save yourself 10%, support your boys for a year. We appreciate it.
Oh, yeah.
William Henderson and Leaf Weimer went up to a $10 pledge to get into that old meat draw there. Thank you very much for supporting the show.
and as we always like to say at the end of these things, keep those eyes on the skies.
See you in after hours.
Peace.
The comfort of your favorite seat is now your comfy car selling command center, thanks to Carvana.
It doesn't get any better than this.
Your favorite seat's the best spot in the house. Make it even better by entering your license plate or VIN and getting a real offer in minutes.
There really is no place like home.
And speaking of home, Carvana will pick up your car from yours after you finalize your offer. Visit Carvana.com or download the app and sell your car from your comfy place. That's not just the sound of that first sip of Morning Joe. It's the sound of someone shopping for a car on Carvana from the comfort of home.
That's a good blend.
It's time to take it easy, like answering some easy questions to get pre-qualified for a car in minutes.
Talk about starting the morning right.
just like customizing your terms so your car fits your budget. Visit Carvana.com or download the app to experience car shopping the way it should be. Convenient, comfortable.